Hello, my name is Diana Suchodolski, and I'm Executive Director for Meet Me at the Well. And I am with Penelope Duncan tonight. And Penelope is a behavioral science student, occupational health administrator. She is EMT certified and leads a life skills workshop with the Salvation Army. As a lived experience expert, Penelope will be partnering with us tonight at Meet Me at the Well to talk about relationships and why understanding them is a protective factor against exploitation, abuse, and trafficking. And specifically, we're going to be talking about um, consent, coercion, boundaries, not necessarily in that order. So I'm going to start to share my screen and then we will dive right in. Okay, how does that look?
It looks good. I can see it.
Perfect. All right. So just a little bit about us. We are a 501c3 established in 2016. And actually, Penny, I was looking at our paperwork. It was actually 2014, so I had to update. We are a team of survivors and allies and a very diverse group of people coming together to walk with survivors of trafficking through their journey for healing and growth. And one day we would like to eventually open a home for survivors to grow and heal in Delaware. Two of the programs that we have is a scholarship program and also the HEAL training and survivor recovery program, which is phenomenal. And we're so grateful to Highmark for helping us to get that scholarship program going. Why we do this work. So in the work that we do, and this could look different in different regions and for different organizations, but for us, the most common type of trafficking that we do see, I would say the top two would be drug facilitated trafficking and then the familial trafficking. And I think it's interesting to note that 88% of victims that are currently in treatment with professionals that we work with are victims of familial trafficking. Massage parlor and spa trafficking is also something that we have encountered in Delaware. There are 70 plus illicit massage establishments, and there is the online trafficking, of course. We don't really have a solid picture of what that looks like, but it's something that we're looking more into. So for today, like we said, we're going to talk about boundaries, coercion, and consent, and why this is understanding it as a protective factor. So one of the important pieces to start with is to understand that all the things that we're going to talk about, the consent, coercion, boundaries, all are forms of, can be forms of emotional manipulation. No one is perfect. We all make mistakes and we're all learning. But when the behavior happens in a pattern and it's repeated, then it becomes toxic or abusive. And we'll learn more about that in the next upcoming slides. Penny, did you want to jump in?
Yeah, and I think too it's important for anyone of any age to know that your body belongs to you, and it's okay to say no. It's actually really important to learn to say no. And I think by going through these slides talking about consent tonight is really going to paint a picture on how that looks and how you can start to learn how to say no.
Absolutely. We're just going to touch on boundaries for just a moment. So we do think it's important to understand that boundaries can feel like such a vague concept. So talking about it and understanding what it means for you personally is so important. And it's important for you to establish what you are comfortable and uncomfortable with, and identifying your personal and physical boundaries and being able to say no. And this includes giving consent. It basically boils down to what is not negotiable. Penny, did you want to add something?
So I think too, like consent. I think the reason why we wanted to touch base on boundaries is that consent piggybacks off of boundaries. So it all consent is all about respect and choice. So if you don't respect someone's boundaries, there are so many red flags that can pop up from that happening. Um, so for instance, my whole life, no one has asked me, hey, are you comfortable with doing this? Do you want to be doing this? It was more, okay, you're gonna, you know, go be with this person for this amount of money. And like there was never a choice. Um, so I think even now, as a survivor being out for a few years, is that I still struggle with boundaries because I want to people please all of the time. So I think from how everything stems from the past and what people did to me of not asking me anything, it has now formed the other side of, okay, well, now I have trouble with boundaries, and it sometimes looks as though I let people walk all over me, but it's really because I don't want to say no. I want to help as many people as I can. So that definitely is a struggle for a lot of survivors, is to find the voice of saying no, especially after having to listen to someone else.
Absolutely. And establishing boundaries is deeply personal, and it's different for everyone. And it's a practice. Like if in the beginning, if you don't do it a lot, it's uncomfortable. So you have to just keep practicing it. I think everybody, I think COVID really exposed a lot of people that were not good with boundaries. I was one of them because, work life, home life just was a complete blur. And saying no was uncomfortable. So yeah. Yep.
And I think too, boundaries looks different for everybody in your life, right? Like it's not just about relationships. It's friendships, it's work life. But then, like you said, with COVID and working from home in some cases, your work becomes your life.
Right. And that's not healthy. Now we know. We know. So we're going to go into a little bit about what coercion feels like. And I think that this is very helpful because for some of us, we don't have the words. We just know that something feels off. And this helps you to figure out what it is that's feeling off, and what that is trying to tell you. So your body tells you a lot. So it feels like an upset stomach, right? That's like tied to anxiety. It feels like confusion. You feel like you're avoiding interaction, especially with the person that is trying to talk you into doing something. And it feels like you're isolated because maybe what they're trying to talk you into doing, you don't want anyone to know about it. And it feels uncomfortable when you're trying to tell someone about it. If you can't talk about it, if you don't feel comfortable talking about it, it's a huge indicator that this behavior or action that you're possibly going down the path towards is really not something that you want to do. What do you think, Penny?
And I mean, it's never, looking back on my whole life experience, I used to look at red flags like, oh, this is a challenge. Like, I can get through this. But really, it's your body's way of telling you, like, yeah, something's not right. Maybe I should listen to this because
Exactly.
don't think that, oh, okay, just because I'm feeling this way, let me challenge my way of thinking, because that's not how your body is trying to warn you. And I wish that I knew that when I was younger of, okay, this is a warning, it's not a challenge. Like, don't take this on.
Oh my gosh, I am cracking up because you're absolutely right. And there are some people that are, I guess they're like, it's like in their culture, or and you know what? That's actually part of grooming, is someone telling you to ignore what you know in your heart and in your soul doesn't feel right. That is part of grooming.
And I mean, it also makes sense too with, you know, for me of going through familial trafficking and listening to don't talk to this person and like already being isolated. But I think now, even looking at healed me compared to old me, there's still parts of me that are like, you know what? I don't feel like talking to all of these people, or I'll just avoid certain situations because I'm feeling a certain way. And it's night and day because I used to challenge myself all of the time, and I think that that's normal too. Of, you know, all of these listed, they may work for some people, or you may get the warning another way. Everybody is different on how coercion looks and feels to them.
Absolutely. This is a little bit more of that same thing, but it's looking at the behavior of the other person. So now we're looking at what they are doing. Are they trying to sweet talk you? Are they trying to deceive you? Um, Beguile is such a not a common word. I probably shouldn't even have it up there, but it's like someone who is trying to be very cool about sliding something under the radar, right? So it's like, lying by omission, like that's not what I meant, but just like leaving important details out to try to get you to do something. So what else is, I think, yeah, I mean, these are all pretty much the same thing. And exploit, obviously, is like, it's when you take advantage of someone, because eventually that's what coercion is moving towards. But I like down here at the bottom, it's basically very uncomfortable persuasion. Like we all try to talk people into doing things. That's not what we're talking about here. What we're talking about is when someone is trying to talk you, or even if you're trying to talk somebody else into something to the point where it's making the other person uncomfortable. That's coercion. And that's when those flags go up. And that's when your instincts and your intuition should be front and center. Listen to them.
And you might not notice it at first of being, a trick, or it might just happen one time and you're like, oh, okay, like I'll forgive you this one time. But then
Yes,
that one time, it's when it starts to become more than just that one time, and you start seeing it over and over again, where you have to listen to those red flags and say, like, hang on a second, this isn't just the first time that this person has tried to trick me into doing something or has misled me down the wrong path. Um, there's a lot of sweet talk too, or oh, he or she, they'll never hit me again. But then it becomes that cycle.
yep,
So I think
absolutely.
that's really important to pay attention to, is that it doesn't just happen at one time. It's, you need to start paying attention to when it happens over and over again.
Yes, there's a pattern to the behavior. So these are just some of the terms, the terminology that's used in coercion. And some of this sounds very cliche, right? Like, I wouldn't do anything to hurt you. But this is actually what they say. This is real. Um, Everybody is doing it. That does sound really silly and cliche, but it's some variation of that. Like everybody is making money like this now. This is what we're doing. This is what everybody's doing, especially when it's on social media and it does look like everybody's doing it. I don't know if you've seen the TikTok videos that show like the um exotic dancers like showing all of the money that they've made, like,
Mm-hmm.
and you see that the person that owns the account is actually like a guy's name, and then in the description it's like, this is what we're doing now, like this is what everybody's doing now. So just pay attention to that, because that seeing that type of message over and over does eventually become an internal voice in your head, like that is another form of coercion.
One that definitely stands out to me is if you love me, prove it.
Yes.
You
That's
know,
just mean.
it is. It's, I think back to everything that I was taught, and it was all about loyalty and all about like proving love for the people in your life. But really, if that person loved you, like they wouldn't be putting you in that position of go make me some money.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think you were alluding to this too, that it's not necessarily romantic relationships either. Like this could be familial relationships. This could be someone within your family that you trusted, like an uncle or a cousin. That's like we can do this together. We can make this money together. This doesn't necessarily have to be a romantic relationship. Like this is, somebody that you love and you trust. You're like, if you were about this family, you would. If you loved this family, you would. So I just wanted to point that out. Okay, this is where technical difficulties could occur. We wanted to play this because it's important. I think it's consent is not a tangible word. Like it's not something that you can like show a picture of. Like, but this video does a really great job of it. So I'm just gonna go ahead and play it.
If you're still struggling with consent, just imagine instead of initiating sex, you're making them a cup of tea. You say, "Hey, would you like a cup of tea?" And they go, "Oh my God, I would love a cup of tea. Thank you." Then you know they want a cup of tea. If you say, "Hey, would you like a cup of tea?" And they're like, I'm not really sure. Then you could make them a cup of tea or not, but be aware they might not drink it. And if they don't drink it, then, and this is the important part, don't make them drink it. Just because you made it doesn't mean you are entitled to watch them drink it. And if they say no thank you, then don't make them tea. At all. Just don't make them tea. Don't make them drink tea. Don't get annoyed at them for not wanting tea. They just don't want tea, okay? They might say, "Yes, please. That's kind of you." And then when the tea arrives, they actually don't want the tea at all. Sure, that's kind of annoying as you've gone to all the effort of making the tea, but they remain under no obligation to drink the tea. They did want tea, now they don't. Some people change their mind in the time that it takes to boil the kettle, brew the tea, and add the milk. And it's okay for people to change their mind. And you are still not entitled to watch them drink it. And if they're unconscious, don't make them tea. Unconscious people don't want tea. And they can't answer the question, "Do you want tea?" Because they're unconscious. Okay, maybe they were conscious when you asked them if they wanted tea. And they said yes. But in the time it took you to boil the kettle, brew the tea, and add the milk, they are now unconscious. You should just put the tea down. Make sure the unconscious person is safe. And this is the important part again. Don't make them drink the tea. They said yes then, sure, but unconscious people don't want tea. If someone said yes to tea, started drinking it, and then passed out before they'd finished it, don't keep on pouring it down their throat. Take the tea away. Make sure they're safe, because unconscious people don't want tea. Trust me on this. If someone said yes to tea around your house last Saturday, that doesn't mean they want you to make them tea all the time. They don't want you to come around to their place unexpectedly and make them tea and force them to drink it going, "But you wanted tea last week." Or to wake up to find you pouring tea down their throat going, "But you wanted tea last night." If you can understand how completely ludicrous it is to force people to have tea when they don't want tea, and you're able to understand when people don't want tea, then how hard is it to understand it when it comes to sex? Whether it's tea or sex, consent is everything. And on that note, I'm going to go make myself a cup of tea.
Okay, I have to control myself when that is playing because the ridiculousness of it makes me want to laugh. Even though it's awful,
Mhm.
it still makes me want to laugh because it is absolutely ridiculous that this is the level that we have to go to try to explain what consent is.
Putting milk in tea, absolutely. I
Yes, 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 yes. Okay, so we're going to do a quick recap of consent and coercion. And consent looks like giving permission, clear, knowing, voluntary, in advance, and during, of course, right? Just like we learned in the consent video. In advance and during, like consent. And then when permission is not given, if there's any type of force, a threat of force, intimidation, fraud, coercion, any type of if then statements, like if you do, then, or if you don't, then that is a sign of like coercive tactics, and that is not consent. Yeah, I feel like that video does a really good job of just summing it up.
I agree. I think another way to look at it too, as an example, is like if you're not a hugger and someone just comes up to you and gives you a hug without asking, like that is a very strong like consent boundary thing. So that's another way to look at it. Like it doesn't just have to be about sex. It can also be about any kind of form of touch.
Yeah, 100%. I did this presentation for teens and parents, and I think at one point they started to feel like, oh my gosh, this is really overwhelming. And I think that when you're younger and when you just don't understand these concepts, not wanting to hurt someone's feelings, that doesn't mean you're being abused, right? It just means that you're just not comfortable, and it's just a sign. It's a sign that this is not a situation that you want to be in. But this is a good reality check. Oops, I call it the ultimate test. You want to say no, but you feel like you can't say no because something bad will happen, either to you or someone you care about. And if that's the situation, then it's time to talk to someone. So it's okay to hurt someone's feelings when you need to say no. I think that's a really important reminder.
I think it is too for everyone, because I know sometimes I need to even see that myself still.
Absolute same. I think you and I are similar in that way. Like we don't want to hurt people's feelings, and we want to help everyone. So it's hard for us, but we just have to make it our wallpaper and save it.
I 100% agree.
Right. So what to say to a respected, caring friend? I need help. Someone has asked me to do something and I don't know what to do. Can you teach me what to say when something bad happened, or I think something bad happened? I don't know how to tell you, but I know I need to, and just I'm afraid.
You know, as I'm looking through all of these,
Let's see. I know. I think that you wanted to add more, but I think it cut off. Penny, try again.
okay. Can you hear me?
I can now. Yes.
Okay, I think it's important for children and also adults to learn this, because as someone like myself who went through familial trafficking, I never learned that it was okay to ask for help or can you teach me about anything? Because even growing up in a school that I went to, you know, I was told even by teachers, like, oh, you're never going to make something out of yourself, so I don't know why we're trying. So I think at that point, in my life, I could have never seen myself saying these things because I didn't know how, or if that it was going to be okay. Because I was taught to always keep everything to myself, or what the family was doing and I couldn't speak it to other people, I knew the consequences. So I think it's a really good thing that we do teach children and even learn it as adults, like I said, that it's okay to use your voice.
I think you're 100% correct. And as you were saying that, I was thinking about something. One of my really good friends that she remembers being taught about child sexual abuse in school and recognizing some of the behavior and thinking to herself, there's no way I'm telling everybody or anybody. I'm not telling anybody. I'm not telling this teacher. There's no way. Like she was like, I don't feel comfortable telling anybody anything. Because she had and didn't get help. And I think she was in elementary school when that happened. So I think we've come a long way. I think that back then, staff in education communities were not equipped to deal with this. But I think that we're doing so much more. And I do believe that we're doing so much better now with the different organizations that are going into the schools to teach about consent and abuse and exploitation and having these workshops where you can practice these words. Because just like it says here, it absolutely feels awkward to say some of these things. But if we don't get taught and if we don't have opportunities to use these words, then it's not going to feel comfortable or safe. So yeah, so I agree with what you were saying, basically. I think we're almost at the end. Just something that we like to remind each other and everyone else that we don't empower. We recognize that others are powerful. We just help them to recognize that about themselves. We love the empowerment model and that structure, and it is beautiful. But in the grand scheme of things, at the end of the day, you are powerful in your healing and in your growth. And we just want to help you recognize that. This is just some contact information and a little self-care reminder before we go on our way this evening. We hope that this was helpful. Please reach out, go back to our website or to Facebook and contact us if you need anything. Definitely do something good for yourself this evening. We absolutely need you out there with a full heart and a full soul to do the work of supporting other people in their journey for healing.
And self-care is so important. So just remember to take time for yourself and not just be wrapped up in everybody else, because after a while, the draining feeling will come and you will need to take time away. So just take the time that you need.
Yep, it catches up to you. Thank you, Penny, for being here and doing this with us tonight. And thank you, everybody else. Have a good night.